McWilliams can talk.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak, and I happen to have Danny McWilliams here today. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
It sounds very
Got him.
It sounds very assuming, like it's I'm a witness relocation. Here's the newspaper. Please send money. No.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been a while since we've done one of these. I should have gone back and looked at the numbers. I'll do that later. I'll tag
It's early.
It was early on. Yeah. Danny.
I think it's been a year, dude.
Danny's been
no, it's been
over a year.
It's been well over a year. I think it was in like September of 2019.
It was before the pandemic. Yeah.
It was well before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we hung out and we made some bar table type things for tubs.
That was after
it was before the
it was before the bar tables.
Yeah, it was like 2000. It was 2019. Mm-hmm. Jeez.
Wow.
So anyway, long story short, Danny's a friend of mine. He's very creative. He has a few projects up in the air, but lately there is a new podcast that you're working on that's all centered around a game. A what do you call it?
So it's a tabletop RPG. So it's going to be, for those of you not in the know, tabletop RPGs or TTRPGs are basically going to be like Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons falls under that overarching umbrella, and that's the most popular one. There's a ton of other options out there. All of us that are involved, listen to different types of like D&D podcasts and stuff. The McElroys, my brother and me, those guys do a really fantastic RPG podcast called The Adventure Zone. The first run that they ever did was D&D. And I think their current season is actually doing D&D again. Sorry.
It's fine.
But yeah, so that was like my first exposure to D&D podcasts. I've been playing for a little over 10 years. It's a fantastic game. But lately, with the people that I'm doing the Sonderlings podcast with, which if you're interested, we're on YouTube, Sonderlings podcast. Follow us on the Instagram, Sonderlings podcast. All those fun things. Yeah, so the people that I'm doing that with, Jacob is an old friend of mine. I just introduced him to RPGs not that long ago. And then Carly and DB are both, I've known them for about a year. We actually started playing D&D because of the pandemic, because we were on lockdown. Some people were putting together a game over Discord, and I was like, yeah, I'll be a part of it. Became really good friends with Carly and got to know DB through running another campaign with them. And all of us have kind of been looking for an excuse to get into some of the weirder RPGs. Some of the like the OSRs, which is more of like an old school revival or old school rules. So it's stripping a lot of the hardened battle mechanics out of it and making it more about the narrative, making it more about the storytelling, the character choices, and less about like, how exactly do you want to attack this person? A little bit more creative problem solving. And so we're basically doing it because we're all storytellers in our own way.
Okay.
We all really love telling good stories, building worlds, making weird stuff, and just having fun. And this is a great medium for that. And it's still pandemic, so why not spend some time doing something really fun with some friends and put it up on YouTube and on streaming sites and see if anybody enjoys it.
The cool thing is now with all the streaming sites that are out there, pretty much everybody's made it convenient to then, interact with one another, do things together. And this game, I mean, I was asking you about, what it entails as far as like things you got to buy. You were saying there's like a book and...
Yeah, so right now Malsonian Arts Council is the company that published Troika. Troika is a science fantasy RPG. It's crazy weird. There isn't a bunch of what I would refer to as direct world building or setting in the book. they're not going to sit down and list out exactly what this looks like. They do it with hints through items or spells or character background descriptions, which would be similar to classes in a more traditional RPG sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll describe like the ardent giant of Corda and talk about how no ardent giant currently alive has ever seen Corda. So Corda is lost. And so one little piece of an ardent giant is that they're all looking for Corda. They're all trying to find. So they all have either some sort of like astronomer's tools, or they've got like an old map to Corda that isn't exact because the universe is constantly expanding and
Mm-hmm.
shifting and all these things. So it's a little bit more of like a Terry Pratchett, Discworld, Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide type
I like
take
that.
on science fantasy,
Yeah.
which makes me real happy. Um, and so it's really fun. And like I said, it's a lot less of in your face rule set and a lot more of just sit down at the table and have some fun with your friends.
So let's say someone like me who knows nothing about any of this.
Mm-hmm.
How would I get started? Like if I was curious about it, would I watch you guys play online and then go from there? Or
So yeah, there's a ton of fantastic podcasts out there.
mm-hmm.
I will let all of you decide if ours is fantastic or not. I think it is. But there's definitely some people that have been doing it longer than us
Okay.
and that do it differently than we do. If you're interested in Troika specifically, I would definitely check out our first episode. What I was saying before I rabbit trailed, because I can't keep my train of thought on one thing ever, is Melsonian Arts Council actually has an SRD available for download right now. So you can go get like the basic rules to Troika for free.
Okay.
I would strongly encourage you to buy a physical copy of the book. Melsonian Arts is based in the UK, I believe, but they do sell through Exalted Funeral Press here in the US. That's where I bought the book. I think with shipping, it was like 30-ish dollars,
Mm-hmm.
$35 for this gorgeous hardcover book. If you have zero experience with tabletop RPGs, I think the easiest way to get started is to either go on Reddit and ask a few questions, check with your friends group to see if anybody else has some experience. You can always buy the book and just read it and try it. The cool thing about tabletop RPGs is the only wrong way to play them is when people at the table aren't having fun.
Mm.
And so like don't worry, don't let like, oh, am I running this right, or am I getting these mechanics right, or am I doing this thing right? Like don't let any of that bother you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're asking those questions because the people you're playing with aren't having a good time. The only thing that's important is that you and your friends are sitting down and having fun. And that's what these games are all about. Who cares really if you get the rules right? You're having fun.
Right.
Um, and that's nice. And there's a lot more freedom with that in Troika and in games like Overlight and Dungeon World and like the Powered by the Apocalypse game system, which is fantastic. It's basically another stripped down rule set that makes it a lot easier to approach, and it's a lot more storytelling or narrative based.
Okay.
But yeah, watch a few episodes of stuff. Get a feel for what systems that you're going to enjoy. If you want something that's a little more crunchy, that's a little bit more, and by crunchy, I mean like rules heavy, that's more focused on breaking down each individual aspect of combat and giving each thing its own trial, I guess. Basically, if you want to move and then attack and then do this thing, these are all going to be broken up into separate actions. And so it's a lot more technical.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Troika and the Powered by the Apocalypse games, it's a lot more narratively like, as the games master, you kind of describe to me what you're trying to do. And then I tell you what to roll to see whether or not you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd be like, okay, I want to attack this thing, or I want to try to pick this lock. And I'd be like, okay, in Troika, you're going to test skill. Very simple mechanic. I'm not going to get into it right now. This isn't the place for that. But then we just kind of conversationally resolve that between us instead of having to pour through a lot of rules of like, oh, well, does this work? Does this work?
Yeah. So the only reason I asked that was I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this going, what's he talking about? I don't even know what these games are. Because I mean, I'll be honest, I don't either. That's why I wanted to ask the questions. And I figured for the casual listener out there, if they had any kind of interest or whatever to looking into it, they would then know where to go. For those who are looking it up, Troika is spelled Troika
with an exclamation point at the end.
With an exclamation point at the end.
Yeah.
For the ASMR people who love to listen to
yes. Also, if you're looking for it, so Troika is a Russian word, and I don't remember what it translates to, but
it means butter.
Possibly.
I mean,
sure, that's what we're going with.
It doesn't mean butter.
No, it's canon now. It's canonical. That's the way it is. If you're looking for it, just search for Troika RPG.
I just like the fact that the RPG game, they have this like victory type title. What does it mean? I don't know.
Butter. Yeah.
It's like having a girl with a Chinese tattoo and she's like, it means courage. No, it means soup.
Right. Absolutely.
I can't believe they're playing this butter game.
Yeah. I mean, why not play a butter game? That sounds fantastic.
I'm sorry, that's how my stupid brain finds a tangent. It's like,
dude, I am here for it.
How can we make this really absurd? I don't know. I'm sorry to the makers of Troika. I'm sure your game is very delightful.
Oh, it is delightful. But here's the fun fact. The makers of Troika would be totally down with what you're doing because they created a game for people to do exactly what you're doing.
I mean, that could be boring and
we don't have an answer.
Ask Google Translate.
Let's make up something real weird.
That's stupid. Nobody wants to actually know.
Nobody cares.
Someone's going to write me and be like, it means truck.
And sweet. If you know what Troika translates to in Russian, comment on this video and let us know.
I'm going to call it butter truck.
Butter truck. Yes, I love that.
Welcome aboard the butter truck. We're going to play a game today, fellas. I don't know why he's suddenly in the South.
Why is the Russian butter truck Southern?
You lost. I can help you to the local store. Sorry, that was a North Georgian accent. I kind of revert to that whenever I get excited.
Yeah, that went real Georgian.
I do a pretty good job of masking my accent unless I'm tired, upset, or drunk for whatever reason,
or like really excited. Something.
Yeah. So then it's suddenly like, wow, it's really Northern Georgian there, buddy.
Whew. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's when I'm paying attention the least.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of common with everybody. You know, being from the South or whatever, going in the military, you're always trying to pick out differences with each other, and you sort of pick up other people's lingo in a way. I mean, we had this one guy that was from Boston. He had a very heavy, Bostonian accent.
Oh yeah.
His name was Hasenfuss. Okay, Hasenfuss is from a long line of firemen, and he wanted to join the Marine Corps to join the fire rescue squad. And Hasenfuss was a stallion of a dude, man. And this guy could run with people on his back and beat you in a flat out race. I mean, he was a stud. But he talked with this very thick Bostonian accent, and everything he said kind of sounded like this,
Yep.
I was like, this guy, but he was awesome. And the crazy part was, we had this other dude that wanted to go into air traffic controlling. When they tested, Hasenfuss actually scored higher and got into air traffic controlling, and the other dude ended up being a crash rescue squad, and they were both pissed off that they got sent to the other thing. Did they get our test wrong? Like, they were just like...
They totally swapped the tests. That's exactly what
Hasenfuss was like, I'm crashing planes, man. I'm not the guy.
Right.
I'm supposed to put out fires. I'm going to cause them, It was hilarious to listen to, but anyway, I don't know why I got on that tangent. I guess...
it happened.
Yeah.
It needed to happen, apparently.
Accents. Being in Southern California, stationed there, a lot of Latino accents. You pick up on it. You come back home. Everyone's like, "Why are you? What's with the accent?" So when you come back home, like people always go, "Where are you from?" You're like, "I'm from here."
What's the word for that?
You just adapt.
No. There's
It's mimic.
No, there's an actual word for the condition.
It's troika.
It's something lalia.
It's troikalalia.
So there literally is a word for the condition where you pick up on somebody else's accent when you're talking to them and you start subconsciously mimicking it. And I know that because I have it.
Everyone,
And
well,
like,
most people have it.
well, I've got it real bad, and it sounds like I'm taking the piss when I do it. Like it really does. And so I have to like kind of like let people know, be like, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to do this. It's a thing that I can't really control. Um, because I shift so quickly.
Yeah.
If I'm around a bunch of people that are all like real deep south, real southern, it'll start coming out in my accent real quick.
Yeah.
But then like, you know, I still like I'm that weirdo that I say coffee in my normal speak, but I also say banana because A, it's the right way to say it.
No,
And
it's not.
well, you're American.
It's
So
a banana, man.
no, I was raised in a different country. Don't
You want
come
a
at me.
nanner?
Yeah, so my phenomes are real messed up anyway because I learned to talk in a different country and then moved back to the States and had to ditch that accent because I got made fun of for it.
So you had an off American accent when you came back.
So I had a Bayesian accent when I moved back to the States. I
Okay.
sounded like I was from Barbados because that's where I learned to talk. And then I got made fun of really bad for it. So I got rid of the accent because kids are jerks.
Kids are jerks.
So I ditched the accent and now I just sound like I'm from quote unquote greater America. Like it's an actual recognized accent. It's broadcaster voice is what it is.
Hello and welcome.
Yeah, it's what you do when you're on mic.
Yeah, yeah.
Where
you're paying attention.
You're paying attention and you're trying to get rid of any traces of accent. You just kind of sound like you're American, but nobody can quite place you.
Yeah. Even, I mean, but you know, just being here in the South or whatever, coming into contact with people here, I guess it is unusual sounding for some people to where they go, "What accent is that? Where are you from?"
Right. I get asked that all the time. Well, I don't get asked that. I have people look at me and go, "You're clearly not from here.
Yeah.
So where are you from?" I'm like, "Well, let me tell you the story because it's kind of all over."
I can draw you a Venn diagram.
Like, I can draw you a map.
Show me on the map where it hurt you. Okay, right here.
Right here and right here.
So when I was in high school, I remember being in French class, and I had this weird thing of when we moved here in 6th grade, I had a problem making friends with people who were from here because they were all in like little cliques, and it was like, you know, if my mom didn't grow up with your mom, then you're just a weirdo. And it took me a little while to realize that I could just make friends with all the new people who move here because they're all lost.
Yeah.
And you just recognize them because they kind of have that deer in the headlights look, and you just walk up to them and say, "Hey, my name's Josh. Who are you? Where are you from?" And I made friends with this girl named Kristen, who was Laotian, but she grew up her entire life in Texas. Her family moved there when she was young.
Yeah.
She had a very, very thick, like Austin, Texas, real Southern drawl kind of talk. And she was in French class and trying to bonjour. And I was just like, this is tripping me out, man. But then I was like, oh, of course. Like, who cares? Like, just because you look different than you sound, that has nothing to do with anything other than where you grew up. Duh. You know?
Right. And that's like a thing that is consistently weird for me because like most of the words that I say, you can kind of like shrug off because I have some weird not mispronunciations, just different pronunciations. But everybody gets caught up on how I say banana. Like
I can't lie, it's now it's off-putting. Like I kind of want to like mock you a little bit.
Absolutely.
All I can think of is Despicable Me. Banana.
Right. And like I get called out for banana and zebra all the time.
Okay, that's just, well, good thing we don't have zebras around. So
well, zebra's how the rest of the world pronounces it. We're literally the only country that's like, we're gonna call it a zebra. And like I personally, when it comes to that case, I like trusting the country that it's from's English pronunciation.
Jaguar or Jaguar?
That's a really hard one.
Not apparently on all the Animal Planet stuff me and my wife are watching. It's always Jaguar. The Jaguar is now moving through the jungle. And I'm like, why do they keep pronouncing the U Jaguar?
Because it is a jaguar.
I guess.
Well, that's like coyote or coyote.
Coyote.
Because it is a coyote.
Yeah.
But anyways,
if you're around here, it's a coyote.
Yeah, I love that we just jumped down this
Listen,
linguistics rabbit hole.
ADD is real, folks.
It's a real thing.
Sometimes you need to support it and
we live in
give
a
it love and
society.
hug it, because it could come from dyslexia. I'm just saying.
It could.
I got in a weird. You'll think this is interesting. Do you know who Vincent D'Onofrio is?
I'm familiar.
He's the actor who played Kingpin in Daredevil, and and he was Gump in what's it called? Full Metal Jacket. Yeah.
Yes.
So he's on social media a good bit, and I don't know, this morning at 3 a.m. he starts commenting about dyslexia.
That word.
Patience. Dyslexia. And how sometimes dyslexia is good because it makes your brain think differently. It makes your problem solving differently. It sometimes makes you creative. And I wrote him back a BD3, just a blur of letters that I think look the same in my stupid brain and sometimes read it that way. And he wrote, exactly.
Yes.
At 3 a.m. I'm going, why is Vincent D'Onofrio tweeting me at 3? I mean, it's cool that, yeah, thank you.
Like that's cool, but
yeah, so interesting exchange. It is weird now that social media has allowed us to interact with people that used to be unreachable.
Yeah.
You know, The Rock reaching out and suddenly like retweeting something you say, or a comedian or a politician, and you're like, why is this guy tweeting me?
Yeah.
Like, why is he sending me a message on Facebook?
That literally are blocked on social media by politicians because they would just like repeatedly call them out on their hypocrisy or whatever, and the politicians just block them. And it's like,
but it's weird when they actually reply with like something thoughtful. And
I like when they reply with
holy
something
crap,
thoughtful.
I can't believe this person actually reached out. That's really cool.
Like, I would rather you take a moment. I mean, if it's blatant, just like trolling or whatever, that's one thing. And I'm pretty sure like Arnold Schwarzenegger is the only person that has the ability to respond to trolls in a positive and uplifting manner, because that dude has done it multiple times and it's fantastic. Did you see that? Have you not seen that?
No.
I'll show you later.
No, but I did watch him do a fundraiser to come drive his tanks.
Oh, nice.
Have you ever seen that?
No.
That's another wormhole. Okay. YouTube Arnold Schwarzenegger, come drive a tank.
I will 100%.
You will laugh. You will laugh until you hurt yourself.
I will 100% fall down that rabbit hole.
Because apparently he owns tanks.
Nice.
And things that you can drive over with a tank. And
that makes complete sense.
He makes a full video about, people applying to come drive tanks with him at his tank camp so that he can raise money for, it has something to do for fitness in California or something for the kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course he's doing this. This is genius.
He's doing that.
Holy crap.
I mean, if you've got tanks and you've got things to drive over with the tanks, why not sell premium tickets to raise money for charity?
In one video, I think he said, this car was the first car I bought in America. Let's drive over it with a tank. And
yes.
And then he's like, I set the record back in blah, 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 blah for bench pressing this weight. Let's drive over it with a tank. And he's driving. I was like, this is getting better and better.
That's amazing. And I need to fall down. That's a rabbit hole I need. There are a lot of YouTube rabbit holes I don't need. That's one I'm stoked on.
The whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, did he talk everybody into filming him do this? Or did someone go, I got a great idea? And he went, I like it. Let's do it.
Right. And it only went one of those two ways.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in the conversation where he was like, maybe this isn't the greatest idea. Like, either he came up with it or he was in from the start. He was like, wait, I get to drive tanks over things and you're going to film it. Yes, we're going to do this and raise money for charity.
Yeah.
Because
I love it.
I would be that excited.
Yeah. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with The Rock. You come up with an idea and at a certain point of celebrity or status, you have an idea and you say, let's run with it. And people go, okay. Yeah. And I mean, it could have happened as a conversation. And he's like, I got a tank. Let's do that.
Right. It probably, honestly, it was probably just him and a friend out there.
It was hilarious.
And he was like, let's drive over this. You want to film it? Cool. And then it blew up and he was like, let's keep doing it.
Yeah. This is gold, baby.
Gold. I think it's gold.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I had a tank, I would drive over stuff with it.
Me and my friend Greg, when we were little, we used to think about what we would do with a flamethrower if we had our own flamethrower. And now they make flamethrowers that you can actually buy.
Right.
The ones for your weeds. But Every time I see a highlighted flamethrower video, I have to send it to him, and I'm like, it's this close, dude. We can we can
I
make
mean,
this
you can
happen.
literally go to Lowe's and get that right
Let's
now
melt stuff
at this moment.
I just want to melt stuff.
That thought occurred to me the other day. I was like, because I just got a new credit card, and
does it have the Millennium Falcon on it? Because
no,
mine
it
does.
doesn't.
Mine does.
Mine is green.
Okay.
It's this pretty like limeish green. But I didn't get my first credit card until like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've avoided credit my whole life. And so I think it was about 2 years ago that I was like, I really need to start getting
some credit.
My credit.
Yeah.
And I had some credit, but I need to get it better.
Well, you bought a house this year. I mean,
I bought a house this year. That's one thing.
That's a big deal.
Right. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. So the first credit card I get, right, I get like a Capital One. It's like a $300 line of credit. It's just pitiful. So I'm like
30% interest in the beginning.
Yeah.
You're like, ah.
So it's like paying it off every month religiously as soon as the bill came available.
Yeah.
Like not even waiting till the due date. Like as soon as I could pay that bill, I would pay it.
Yeah.
And you can't use more than, you should never really have more than 10 to 20% of your available credit tied up. Mm-hmm. The less, the better.
Yeah.
And so I'm paying this off. I'm like buying a tank of gas a month on this thing and paying it off, which is really responsible. And I'm proud of myself for how I handled it. And then when I bought the house, I got a Lowe's card. And the Capital One card had gone up a little bit. It had gone up to like $500. Lowe's card I get at $400. So now I have $900 in available credit, but I'm okay because I've got the cash sitting there in a safe. Even if I have like a really crazy high couple of weeks, like I don't want to say manic because I'm not manic depressive, but I do go through like, well, I don't think I am. I'm not diagnosed, but I go through stages where I am
stop looking at me.
I'm going to buy all the things.
Don't judge me.
Right. And so even if I go through this like crazy spending thing where I'm like, I want to buy this thing and this, I can pay it off.
Right.
Like I've got the cash sitting there. And then a couple months ago, I was like, what am I doing? It was right before I talked to you about your Disney trip that you took with your Disney card.
Yeah.
Right. And so right before that, weirdly enough, I got an airline miles card with a $3,000 limit on it. And I promptly started shitting myself because I was like, I'm not responsible enough for this.
It's raining me. Hallelujah.
Like, I'm 33 years old. I'm about to be 34. And I'm just sitting there like, oh no. Oh no. I know I'm going to be responsible with it, but it's still terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I'm just quietly trying to accrue airline miles points on there and not overspend on it.
So what you were talking about earlier is the best way to do it. If you charge it and then just pay it off as soon as you get it. And just don't, the hard part is just telling yourself, I don't need it right now. Like if it's, you're talking about how you every now and then you get a little mannequin can buy. Listen, Amazon has made it that way because I have that tendency to want to hit that button.
So I have a personal fix for that. I deleted the Amazon app. I logged out of Amazon on
but then how
all
can
my
I
devices.
Buy some snacks while I'm at the store and they don't have it.
Exactly. So I did that. The other thing that I did that really, really makes it difficult is I've set myself a limit. If it's under $25, I don't really have to think about it. If it's something, I can just do it. Done. Right? Anything over that for me, because I can't set it at $50 because then I'll make like 5 $50 purchases in 3 hours and be like, oh, there's $250 that I could have spent remodeling my house that I can't now.
Yeah.
So it's at 25. But if it's not a purchase that I know that I need, it goes in a tab on my browser on my phone. And if that tab, because I'm obsessive compulsive, and yes, I am diagnosed with that.
Stop judging me.
There's a whole slew of things going on up here. So I'm obsessive compulsive. So I compulsively close all my apps when I'm not using them, and I compulsively weed out all of my browser tabs.
My wife's not here. She doesn't know you're talking about her. Just keep going.
Absolutely. And so
I mean, I do the same thing,
if
but
it's
whatever.
lasted 2 or 3 days,
That's deflecting. See that?
yeah. See what he's doing? Classic. But yeah, if it's lasted 2 or 3 days in my browser, then I want it enough to buy it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how I stop myself from making these stupid purchases.
So I am the same. Okay.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I'm the same.
I love listening to other non-neurotypicals people's way of functioning with like quote unquote normal things.
Well,
because it's so much fun.
It's weird adulting. It's
creative adulting.
Well, so my brother wanted to do a podcast with his wife, and they were thinking of names to call it. And at one point, they really considered calling it unsupervised adulting.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which I loved.
Yeah.
But then he's like, "Oh, someone's already got that." I was like, "Really? Oh, wow, that's pretty interesting." This was years ago, and I was like, "Really? Somebody's already got that?" Oh, okay. So anyway, it didn't end up being that. It became something else, and then they maybe recorded 3 episodes and quit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alex, I love you, but you quit that. He got busy. He got busy at adulting. But
unsupervised adulting.
When you're unsupervised adulting, you're kind of making the crap up as you go along because you don't tend to run everything by everybody. You just make decisions on the fly, and you have to deal with the circumstances no matter what they are. So I said all that to say this. There was a while there where we were setting up this house, and we got a little out of control with buying the things that we thought we needed to keep things going. And it became more of the things we wanted. And before we knew it, we were working our butts off and not getting any ground with our debt. And I went to work one morning and was fussing, and this guy was listening to me. I've known this guy for years. We worked together at Budweiser and at Coke. And he's like, "What's going on?" And I told him what was going on. He said, "I know it sounds stupid, and I know you've heard about this." He said, "But there's this Dave Ramsey guy." And I was like, "I'm not buying into no pyramid scheme." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "No." And he basically just told me, he said, "Start listening to the radio. He's on the radio." And I think during that time is when podcast started, and they started putting his radio show on podcast. He said, "Look it up, listen to it. He just gives you some advice, just how to handle your money the right way."
Yeah.
He's like, he's not asking for anything. He's selling books if you want to buy a book. He goes, but he tells you everything you want for free. He's got a website, DaveRamsey.com. He's got a financial calculator. It shows you how to do your finances. And all of it, all of a sudden, sounded like money. And in my brain, I went, I don't like talking about money. And my brain was like, that's stupid. Don't listen.
Right.
But I did listen. That one time I did listen. And I checked it out. I had to drive to Charleston at 3 a.m. And I sat in the little break room, and I downloaded the little podcast on my phone.
Yeah.
And I got in the vehicle, and I plugged it into the speakers, and I listened to him talk about finances. For the first time, I started paying attention to money. And I was probably 35, 36 at the time. So yeah, that wasn't too long ago. I'm 46 now, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we started being responsible with money. The hard part was coming home and convincing my wife to get on board. But we paid stuff off. We paid off probably $80,000 in debt in a year and a half by just knuckling down hard, working all the extra overtime I could work, doing anything I could do, eating beans and rice. My wife was killing herself to do her job and get kids picked up and back and forth and make dinner out of chicken and rice. We ate a lot of chicken and rice, a lot of chicken and noodles, a lot of chicken, cheaper chicken. Chicken's cheap, especially when you buy it at Sam's and you get shred it and
big old case of
boil it and shred it. And so we did everything we could to get out of debt. And then when we got out of debt, I started being more responsible with purchases. I remember my first big purchase was the table saw that I have out here. I went to Lowe's, and I don't know about you, but when I walk in Lowe's, I hear Christmas music.
I don't hear Christmas music because I hate Christmas music, but I hear celebratory music.
I start dancing when I'm got my buggy.
And the smell of Lowe's and the tools and like the grease and the wood. Oh my god!
All the possibilities. Oh, there's so many things.
That's the strongest aphrodisiac out there.
So anyway, I wanted a table saw. I didn't know why I wanted a table saw, but I knew I wanted a table saw. I didn't have a plan for the table saw. That was the stupid part. I just wanted one. I had this like voice in my head going, if you build it, they will come. And I'm like, I need a table saw first,
Right. I need a table saw to build it, and then they'll come.
I don't know what I'm building, but I know I need a table saw. So I'm looking at the table saws, and they had one there for like $500. I researched it. It was the one I wanted. And all I could hear was Dave Ramsey's voice in my head going, just save the money. And by the time you save the money on the side, you probably won't want it, or you'll find something better, or it'll be on sale. And
Right.
I went, stupid dude.
Like, fine.
So
you go home sulking.
I had
It's
no
like,
reason.
fine.
Again, I had no reason to buy it.
Yeah.
None. Walked out of there. Here's my pocket. With lips stuck out. I came home and I started squirreling away money. $10 here, $20 there. I just kept sticking it aside. And then, you know, Christmas comes around. I ask everybody for Lowe's gift cards. I'm saving up for something big. I just want Lowe's gift cards. Finally get my $500 to where I can squirrel it together. And I go there and I'm like, I'm going to buy the thing today. This is kind of weird. I get to buy the thing. I walked in and they had one right next to it, the Cobalt version with the one I wanted didn't even have a fold out table or a rolly table or anything. It was just the tabletop.
Yeah.
This other one had the fold down table and it rolls around and it scoots up against the wall and it had all kind of extra doodads and it was $280.
Yeah.
So I bought the one for $280 and I walked out of there singing a different song. I need to listen to Dave more.
Right. That's like, damn it, Dave, you were right.
Yeah. So it was that about 10 years ago, I felt like my first real grown-up moment of going, oh, I can spend money responsibly. I just got to teach myself to say no when I have that impulse. So my wife and I talked about, I mean, we had talked about this saw a lot. And she kept asking me, what are you going to do with the stupid saw? I was like, I don't know. I built the back deck with the saw. The moment that I talked to my dad about, hey, I want to build this back deck, he was like, we're going to need a table saw. And I was like, I have one. He goes, what?
Right.
And I had literally not turned it on. I'd had it for over a year or two at the time, 3 longer. I don't know. I'd had it for a while, never turned it on. I was having this same conversation with my buddy Josh West, and he goes, don't tell my wife. He goes, but I've got one in the garage that I've had for 5 years. And I opened it and never put it together. And I was like, what? He goes, I think I took a part out and I've lost the part. So if I go to put it together, I can't.
Oh my God.
He goes, you want to know the worst part? It was the $500 one. He goes, he's like, she's going to be pissed.
That's amazing.
Oh, so I was like, well, at least that makes me feel good. I mean, you know, I made this stupid purchase that I didn't really need, but I did it responsibly and then ended up using it. So
yeah. And
in the long run, I've used it a lot. So, you know, whatever. It is what it is, folks. The important thing is, what's the important thing? Oh, check out DaveRamsey.com. It's all free. He's going to just give you some money advice. And I know people are uncomfortable about talking about money.
Right.
But it is at a certain point in your adult life important for you to learn what to do with your money the right way. It's very easy to get out of control.
And there's one more note. 99% of the time when somebody is like, hey, I will teach you about money, but you need to pay me a lot of money first.
Right.
Yeah. 99% of the time it's a scam.
And his is free.
Yeah. Like Dave Ramsey, you are not the only person that I know that has real life practical experience with putting his stuff into practice and seeing amazing results with it. And so like, why pay for something? Oh, wait, I know why. Because it's effort. Yeah. Because people want the easy way.
I knew that my buddy Greg was doing it when we went to New York for a friend of ours' wedding, and he opened up his wallet and he had a stack of money in his wallet. And I was like, you're doing Dave Ramsey, aren't you? He goes, I budgeted. I'm only allowed to spend this much. He goes, I got different slots for different things. This is for eating out. I was like, that's pretty smart. I was like, but we're in New York. It's kind of dangerous. He goes, I know, I'm freaking out a little bit.
Right. I did the same thing when I went to my buddy's wedding. So shortly before the pandemic hit, before the shutdown, before we even like when coronavirus was just a whisper in the news, my buddy got married down in Sarasota where I used to live. I hadn't been in 7 years. I was in the wedding. I'm going unless coronavirus had hit, right? But like I was going. So I'd saved up. I knew I had plenty of money. I had this much budgeted. He hits me up like a week and a half before I'm supposed to go down there and is like in a panic and is like, hey, you didn't book a hotel or anything yet, did you? And I was like, no, I was about to do that. He was like, good. Because my parents, like my mom and my stepdad, really want you to stay with us because I only have a limited amount of time, like right at the wedding. And since you're coming early, I want you to stay with us so I get time to actually hang out with you. And I was like, oh, sweet. Got to move that money from the like accommodations envelope right over to the spend it on dumb stuff when I'm with Wes envelope,
Yeah.
because like I knew food wasn't going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Like I used to live in Sarasota. I know how to eat there pretty cheaply. I
Mm-hmm.
had my car, I was driving, so I knew I wasn't at the mercy of other people.
And your car is great on gas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And so I got to like actually be able to like treat people while I was down there. And it's like that was my first like big uh, like quote unquote adult trip where I felt like I could actually like take care of other people while I was on
Mm-hmm.
vacation and not just sit there and be like, wow, I don't have any money. I can't do fun stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference if you plan for it and budget for it, because then you don't feel guilty, you know?
The hard part is when you're younger, you sort of have to make bad decisions to learn
Oh,
that,
yeah.
because if you don't, you don't appreciate it. Like
Right.
you kind of need to screw up a little bit to go, okay, I know what that does. I don't want to do that.
Like I made so many poor decisions when I was younger. Thankfully, not with my credit. Like, thankfully, I
I
didn't
didn't.
have a credit card until I was in my
I
30s.
made really bad decisions.
Because, like, I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. I just don't do it anymore.
I
But
was
like,
I was a
imagine if
spending
I'd had a
habit.
credit card when
Oh
I
yeah,
did all that, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. It'd make it rain, baby.
for right up until that limit,
Yeah,
and then I would have
yeah,
been game over.
yeah. I made a lot of really bad decisions. Financial. Well, we'll just say financially for now. Everybody knows I make bad decisions. You know me.
Right.
But I mean, financial. I made a lot of really poor vehicle decisions over the years,
Oh yeah.
until I guess the last 10, 20, however long my wife's been here, 20 years. We've been
Mm-hmm.
together 20 years. Yeah. We're getting ready to celebrate our 16th coming up in April. Yay.
Heck yeah.
How
What
about
date?
that? The 18th.
2 days after my birthday.
Hey, shout out. So it's her dad's birthday today, and my dad's birthday is this weekend. Both of our dads, both of our moms, two of our kids is all within like a week or two. So it's like
No pressure.
dun dun dun. Yeah. So
I feel like that's worse than Christmas
eh,
because you're supposed to remember each individual one.
but I mean, my phone app now tells me, hey, don't
Right.
forget.
Don't forget
Oh
this
yeah,
thing.
how about that? Yeah, but it is weird because, like, through the pandemic and through my wife losing her job and being out of work for 7 months and my eye injury, Christmas came and I just reached out to family and I said, I love you, but I can't send you anything. Like
Right.
we're piecing it together here as best we can, and work had screwed up my pay for a good 6 weeks. I mean, it was awful, but everybody was like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a big deal. I don't expect anything. And I was like, are you sure? I mean, because I'd like to be able to help, and I can't. And they were like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And the weird thing was, I actually got some gift certificates from my brother and my dad, and they're just like, here, we just want to help. Don't send me anything in return.
Yeah.
That's an order. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I mean, I had the same thing happen to me over the
you know,
pandemic
yeah,
because, Hefe shut down for
yeah,
6 weeks, almost 2 months. I was literally no work. I couldn't get anything sorted out with unemployment. So I didn't have unemployment. I had just come back from my buddy's wedding where I, like
yeah,
not realizing how bad things, thankfully, while I was there, things started escalating a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is going to be bad. So I like clamped down. So I actually came back with like $400 left over from the trip that I had planned on spending,
mm-hmm.
that I was like, I can't do this because this has to go back into savings.
Yeah.
I ended the pandemic with under $1,000 in all of my savings, emergency fund, everything.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about being, 30. I was 33 at the end of the pandemic. Well, not the end of the pandemic, but the end of quarantine in South Carolina. I was 33 at the end of it, and like it just felt like an absolute failure
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't even have a month in savings. If something had hit,
It's amazing that so much is tied into our everyday living, that something like this could affect it so much. And I know
mm-hmm.
that we're lucky being where we're at in Florence, South Carolina. I mean, there's a lot of places that are more destitute. Um, A lot of people are still locked down. I think
Mm-hmm.
California is just now starting to open up some of their outdoor dining, but
Right.
there's a lot of their people that just, I mean, they were losing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of families moving back into back in with each other. And it reminds me a lot of, the big housing crisis that happened in 2008. And there was another big event that happened in the 90s. Um, it seems like every 10 to 12 years, there's another big thing that suddenly, like, generations of people have to move back in with their folks and go, okay,
Right.
thank you for letting us stay here, but we're trying to get on our feet again. We just don't know how. it's a,
Yep.
it's kind of one of those things, and it always makes me think back to the fact that, on my mom's side, her parents lived through the depression, and they had their fathers and mothers pass away when they were young, and they had a large family, and they all decided, we don't want to go into orphanages, so we're going to all work. And back then there was no child labor laws, so
Right.
if you're 8 years old, hey, you can go work in the fields. You can, if can you lift that thing? Okay, cool. We'll take you on the construction yard.
Mm-hmm.
You can work in factories. I mean, they got exploited for a long time, but they were determined not to let their circumstances dictate their life, and
Right.
they fought their way out of it. And I keep thinking back to that and conversations that my grandfather had over the years of, if you just have some land never goes out of sale, it never loses
Mm-hmm.
its value. It's always going to be worth something. They don't make any more of it.
Right.
And he's right. But I remember him coming home. I must have been, I think I was preschool. He come home one day and he was like, let me tell you, he goes, there's this thing called computers and you need to learn them. He was all fired up. He'd been at some construction site and seen computers for the first time, and it blew his mind.
Yeah.
He's like, this is the future. There's this company called IBM. As soon as you get some money, you start putting it into your account. And I'm like, what? But he was bound and determined to teach me my multiplication tables. And I think I was like 3. And I learned them. And I was like, okay, Papa, I can do this.
Right.
But it was, it's interesting to have that kind of foresight from something then. And you're in an age now. I have a grandson, and I'm like, what am I supposed to be teaching you? Like, I don't know. I mean, stock up on your guns and just be prepared in case everything turns sideways. I don't. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I'm like,
Have fun if you can.
my
Try to
nephews.
be responsible and don't take everything. So, I mean,
Right.
what advice do you give a generation right now? I mean,
You don't give them advice. Here's the critical error that I think that a lot of people are making when it comes to the next generation is you don't give advice unless it's specifically requested. What you do is you create avenues for them to pursue their passions and to learn
I like that.
voraciously.
I like
So
that.
like my nephews are really into cooking right now, right?
Meth.
Oh God, no.
Sorry.
They do not need to follow in my shoes. I never
It's
cooked
the
meth.
joke. It's a joke,
Um,
people. I'm not. Never mind.
but yeah, like they're really loving cooking,
Yeah.
and I've been watching Sorted Food on YouTube. It's a group of blokes in London. They do a lot of cooking. They have an app that is literally it gives you 3 recipes a week. You can choose a recipe pack every week, and yet they have like 5 different packs you can choose from.
Mhm.
And each pack has 3 recipes. You can see which 3 that you're the most interested in. You download those, and those are your like quote unquote midweek meals. They're all supposed to be really quick, really simple. I think they're 30 to 45 minutes or less in prep time. Full meal, right? No, no, no. You need to know about this because you'll love it. The other thing that it has is it has a built-in pantry checklist and a recipe checklist. So what you do is you go in and you check off all the things you already have in your pantry. Do you have all-purpose flour? Do you have baking soda? Do you have cumin? Do you
Is it
have
in date?
garlic powder? Are
That's
these
another
things
adult
in
thing.
date?
Is your stuff in date?
Right. And so like what it does is you go through, you check off all the things you've already got, and then you download your recipe pack and you go through that recipe and like, yes, I've got a clove of like I've got a full clove of garlic, like a bulb, sorry, not a clove. I have a bulb of garlic. Yes, I've got these red onions. All 3 recipes are designed to work in tandem with each other using up ingredients. So they know that it's hard to get 1 cup of milk. So if one recipe calls for milk, then they're pairing it for another recipe that calls for milk as well later in the week.
Okay.
So you're using every bit
What's
of
the
what
name
you
of it
buy.
again?
It's the Sorted Food Packs app. It's the Meal Packs app.
Sorted Food. I'm gonna write that down.
So it ends up being I think it's like $7 or $8 a month to subscribe to this thing. You get these recipes, they're saved in your library.
Mm-hmm.
So you start out with only 3 your first week. And I think right now you can actually get a free trial of it for a month. But they all get saved in your library. You can go back and revisit them anytime you would like to. They're full breakdowns with video or audio instructions. So they're literally like reading out the recipe to you. The recipe has built-in timers. So when you're supposed to boil pasta for 7 minutes, you start the water. As soon as it hits a rolling boil, you drop in your noodles and you click in the app because it has that 7-minute timer baked into the recipe for you.
What do you do if your stepdad calls in the middle of it and wants to talk to you about his dogs? And
you put him on speakerphone or you put him on your Bluetooth headset and you just keep going.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I get people calling me at random times right when I'm in the middle of something, and it's like, why are you calling me now? I'm doing this thing. And you're like,
Jacob always calls me when I'm trying to eat. It's uncanny.
Curses, Jacob.
But yeah, so like my nephews, this again, I digress. This app is really cool. I'm really passionate about it because, I was a chef for 15 years, or I cooked for 15 years. I was a chef for several of those. And my nephew's wanting to get into cooking. Like I pulled my sister-in-law aside and I was like, look, I don't care what it costs. I'll pay for this. Yeah. I want these boys to have access to something that fuels their passion, gets them excited.
And it's tangible.
It's tangible. It helps them. So it's
a world knowledge. I mean, it'll help them the rest of their life.
Cooking. Yeah. You're learning measurement systems. You're learning how to follow a scientific procedure.
How to be responsible with the things that they buy.
With what you buy, how to eliminate food wastage.
Yep.
You're learning how to properly handle sharp knives and hot objects. You're learning quick thinking skills because in a kitchen, sometimes you have to think on your feet and fix a problem at the last moment.
It's a lot more efficient to eat at home than it is to eat out.
It's a lot cheaper and you can eat a lot healthier to eat at home than to go out to eat. And it's like this crazy cool thing. So my sister-in-law's mom, she lives in a tiny house on the back of my brother's property. Mm. And one of her things that she did for Christmas this past year is she bought the boys subscriptions to the KiwiCo boxes, which are basically like STEM learning kits. They're these interactive packages that come in the mail once a month that teach your kids STEM education.
Okay.
And so it'll be like science experiments, or it'll be like, build this thing that's like this mechanical device, or
I saw something like that. I didn't know that was what it's called. I saw an advertisement for it and I was like, what was that? And I'd already missed it. And I was like,
right. And they're like these super cool things. And all that to say, I am by no means an authority on parenting or being a parent. I don't have children. What I can do is speak from my experience of when I was young and the things that impacted me the most. And I can tell you the biggest impact that I remember from being a child is when adults enthusiastically were excited about the things I was passionate about and helped me pursue them and helped me learn how to learn.
Yeah.
Learn how to pursue my passions. That has stuck with me, and that's made the biggest difference in my life. It's not about the people that sat me down and said, well, let me tell you about this, and this is how you're going to need to live your life. I didn't listen to that. What I did listen to was people that decided to tell me how to problem solve and how to pursue my passions and how to enrich my life. Those are the stories I've carried.
So with that, I kind of want to bridge this a little bit because I have a new thing that I'm in love with, and I shared it with you earlier, the Van Neistat.
Oh, it's not me.
On YouTube. So on YouTube, it's Van Neistat, Neistat. He's Casey Neistat's older brother. Really interesting story. Started the first episode. He's a handyman who is a poet at heart, and the way he tells his story in the videos, it reminds me a lot of you in the fact that you're a very thoughtful person, and very creative. He has a lot of that in what he does. There's also that moment in one of the videos we were watching where he took Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut, and he said he has like this giant roller attached to his ceiling, and he rolled it out and he hand typed every word and then cut them out in giant print to put them on this big piece of, and I'm like, as I'm watching it, it's going through the stories, and I'm like, this is so much. This is a Kirk Vonnegut type voice. This is a self-realization of how absurd and beautiful everything is in the same moment. And that's when I said out loud, this is poetry.
Yeah.
This guy is doing poetry, but he's visually teaching you a little bit about, not necessarily, it's supposed to be about what he is, but I'm watching it and I'm learning about me.
So
like, that's the crazy thing.
That's the thing that really struck me about it is, and let me make this abundantly clear for anybody watching or listening to this. This was my first exposure. Didn't know a thing about this dude. Don't know who the hell his brother is. Like, I don't know anything about this. This is no context. I watched a couple of YouTube videos. And what I got from it is, this is a poet that crafts poetry not just with his voice, but also with his hands.
Yeah.
Like, there are makers that make very practical objects. That's more of the category that I fall into. I am creative. I am a creator. I am a maker, but I'm not as much of a dreamer when it comes to that sort of thing. You know, I'm not a Rube Goldberg machine maker. I'm yeah, I can fix that thing in a way that you're not gonna like expect me to fix it, but I'll fix it. And this man is
fixing the thing.
It's poetry.
He's fixing the thing, but he's also, like I said,
he's fixing the thing, but he's speaking to your soul as well.
I didn't feel like he was, like, as much as he was telling a story about him, I felt like he was telling a story about me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm listening to it and I'm like, I'm this guy in a lot of way. Like, there's a lot of him in me, or me and him, or something. There's some kindred spirit here that I don't quite understand, but I feel like he's talking to some subconscious version of me that's like,
well, you even said when we walked into this room and I asked you what that little table thing was for, you used his term when you were talking about you making it. Like, it's clear this has spoken to your soul.
I made a thing. This is the spirited man's table for his computer. Right. I'll show you guys that later.
This nerd, we walk into the room and I'm like, ooh, what's this little thing? He's like, oh, that's the spirited man's computer stand. Having just watched this video for the first time. Like, it's clear it's already worked its way into your vernacular.
I made the thing before I watched the video. Right. And then when I watched the video, I went,
it was a diagnostic tool. Like, literally, that video is such a diagnostic tool. You can watch it and be like, oh yeah, I am a spirited person.
I could do a narrative of me sitting on the couch with my wife and going, I'm going to build a podcast room in that room over there. And she's going to go, no, you're not.
Right.
And then I go, so one day I had wood and I thought, this is a chair.
Right. And you do that. You make like that.
I was like, I'm watching it. I was like, he can see me through the computer.
Why do I feel like his eyes are on me?
But it's also like, I feel like if anybody's, I feel like other people could watch it and still enjoy it for what it is, because it is a good story.
It's a fantastic story.
He's only got like 5 or 6 videos up right now. They're not very long. I think his longest one is maybe 11 minutes. But it's all very thoughtful. I reposted one on Facebook today, this morning, because I woke up at 3 a.m. because I have bees in my brain. And it was about I think it's called The 2 Things I Know About Women. And it's a masterpiece of verbiage and history, and
I will be watching more of them later.
And I love the fact that he's vulnerable in the process, because he shows you his own life and how he made some bad decisions and struggled with drugs and alcohol and lost his way, and it's like, it's sort of the question of what makes you happy. So I get asked this question once in a while, and I don't know how to react, because my mom asked me this question one time. She said, if money wasn't an issue, what would you want to do for a living? And I said, I can't answer that properly. And she's like, why? I said, because it's never been in my vernacular.
Right.
I said, that's the kind of question you ask someone in Hollywood when they're writing a story. That's not my life.
Right.
My life has been of purpose. My life has been of necessity. My whole drive or reason to get out of bed is because I had mouths to feed. And as long as I could focus on the fact that I needed to provide for them, I didn't have to think about the fact that I was tired or bleeding or too sore to walk or too tired to see.
Mm-hmm.
It was a choice of do or not do. And I did. And I did it and I did it and I did it. And to then be later in life and have someone say, what do you want to do? I mean, to not be so crass, I kind of want to say, fuck off is what I want to,
I want to do what I want to do.
How dare you ask me that question, woman? No, but, my mom who loves me unconditionally, who gave me life, cares and is at a point in her life where she's older and, she's like, listen, life is short and it's getting shorter. Like if you're not happy, like pivot, and God bless her for that. I mean, I know she really intends well, and it does stir up something in my brain of going, what do you want to do? I mean, my wife started a new job with a company that she would really enjoy working with in the future, but her get in the foot kind of job sucks.
Right
now, she hates it. She is just like, this is awful.
You got to do this stupid grind.
This is the worst job. They do not pay these people enough money. She's like, I know what it takes to succeed, and they're not given the tools they need, and they're not given the training they need. And I'm in the middle of this, and I'm supposed to learn all this stuff, and she's overwhelmed. And part of me wants to tell her, let's sell everything and buy a boat and bug out.
Yeah,
let's leave. Just why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. We're watching some nature show on TV last night, and I think it was called Inside Hawaii. It's on Disney Plus. They have the National Geographic as part of their program. So we've been watching all of them. We watched India, Africa, you name it, all Alaska, Mexico. We watched Mexico last night too. The Hawaii one, we went to Hawaii. There's pictures right there.
Yeah,
loved it. Beautiful, dangerous place. Dangerous. There's lots of things that'll kill you there. Whether it's not the wind or the volcanoes or the earthquakes or the bugs, the insects, the whatever. High cost of living. It's still so gorgeous. We went swimming underneath a waterfall, and there's all these fruit trees, and we had this great guide who's like, try this tree, try that tree. These are delicious fruits. These are really good fruits. And I'm swimming underneath this waterfall, and I told my wife, I said, if there's a heaven, this is it. This right here, swimming underneath this waterfall, is what I think heaven is. This is beautiful. This is, I still, like, anytime I'm like I'm having eye surgery and they're like, all right, this is going to hurt a little bit. I'm like, you're under the waterfall, you're under the waterfall, you're under the waterfall, you're under the waterfall, you're under the waterfall. Right. I'm thinking, like, just think about how cool it was at that moment. The smells, the sounds, the birds, we were in great shape. I'm checking out my wife. She's hot, It's just like, this is a beautiful moment. Just this is the moment you want to remember. Just
right.
But it's like, I don't want her to be unhappy. And my mom doesn't want me to be unhappy. And if they see us struggling through things, there is that moment where you go, why are you doing this? I mean, I know that it's this is the thing that'll pay off in the long run for her, but I also want to tell her, who cares? Who cares?
Well, my big question
what does it matter?
is like, what long run?
Yeah.
Like, does the long run matter if it, like, does that 5 years at the end of the long run matter if the 20 years leading up to it suck ass?
Yeah. I got a buddy of mine right now who's changing jobs, and he's changed jobs a lot. And he called me because he's really contemplating over this decision that he's made. And he's like, if I take this opportunity, it will lead to something at some point. But, I said, do you realize you're 45 and this is the choice you're making? This is going to be rough. And he's like, I think it's the right choice. I said, that's all that matters. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to look at yourself in the mirror and go, all right, this is what you signed up for. I mean, and I know this is a part of my own situation, but like, I keep thinking about my mom going, so what do you want? Like, if money wasn't an issue, what would you want to do? I'm like, I said, can I get back to you? She's like, sure. So I really thought about it. I really thought about it hard because I'm a thinker. I overthink everything. That's why I can't sleep. It's why I'm up at 3 a.m.
Stop talking about me.
So my brain's going,
come here to get called out by you.
You could be doing this. Why aren't you doing this? You could be doing that. Why aren't you? So I called her back and I said, I don't know if I can make a living at it, but I really enjoy traveling. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, okay. I said, I know that's not the answer you wanted. I said, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the idea, the fantasy of it. And I don't know what that means. I said, but I'm happiest when I'm visiting a new place and exploring it for the first time. And it's all beautiful. And I said, it to me, it is that rationale of, well, what do I have to do that? And
Mm-hmm.
if what I have to do is trudge through whatever I have to do to make the money to do that, okay, that's fine. Because we talked about it. My wife and I seriously like had a moment with Jesus. We were, let's sell everything and move to Hawaii. I'll live on the beach. I don't care. Like
Right.
it was at that level.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, we'll let the cruise ship leave. We'll find new clothes. Who cares? I mean,
Right.
but we really talked about it, and it was we both like to travel. We both like to see new things, and it's if we live there, we can't afford to.
Right.
And if something happens to our family, we can't get back to our family to be there for every life event that you want to be here for.
Mm-hmm.
Birth of grandchildren, older, our parents are getting older.
Yeah.
So it was one of the things of, no, this isn't the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we left it. But like, I understand what she's going through so much because I've done it and I do it all the time. And I want to tell her, let's burn it all. Who cares?
Right. I empathize with that feeling way too much.
The moment, what was it? The Notebook, where he finishes building the house with his dad, and he's like, I got really drunk for 2 weeks and thought about burning it all down. And I thought, I get this guy. Like, I totally understand where he's coming from. I mean, when I built this table, there was a part of me that went, let's hit it with a hammer and see what happens.
Right.
I don't want to hit it with a hammer, but a part of my stupid voice is like, we made something beautiful. Let's crush it.
Absolutely.
No one will believe you did it, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I to everyone out there who's listening, or if you are still listening, I know a lot of people have checked out already, but if you're still listening, like, what is it? What is the thing that you're excited about? What is the thing that you want to do? And ask yourself, are you pursuing that goal or are you not?
Yeah, I mean, are you living or are you surviving? And not to speak ill of surviving.
I like how excited you are about Troika and coming up with a podcast to talk about it and geek out with your friends making the content.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be your friend in this process and learn some of the things that you're teaching me, from doing the stuff on the computer to broadcasting to even just the thoughtfulness of creating something new or looking at things in a different light. Because a lot of people get into a zone in their life where they do the same thing repetitively over and over again. We live in South Carolina. A lot of people hunting and fishing and drinking, and that's it. That's all I do, hunting and drinking. Right. And listen, there's nothing wrong with hunting and drinking and fishing if you do it in moderation. But you got to remember that there's other things people are interested in. Sometimes it's playing with your kids, or I don't know, your wife, whatever.
And look, if all you're interested in is those things or a few simple things, and that's what your life is, there's nothing wrong with that.
Just find balance.
There are those of us who struggle with that journey of finding what we're interested in.
Yeah.
And even being interested in one thing for a while.
Right.
Like, I mean, I can tell you right now, like, I was absolutely passionate about my YouTube channel when I started it.
Sometimes you want to do leatherworking. Sometimes you want to build a lightsaber.
And I loved the fact that I was getting to do whatever I wanted. And then when the pandemic hit, my mental health took a completely really horrible turn. And I just quit. I just quit making. I quit creating. I wasn't doing anything for months. And that's not me. I was completely sick of it.
I tried to reach out a couple times, but my work took a dump for a little while and then skyrocketed so hard that I couldn't even catch my breath. I felt like I was treading water with ankle weights.
And it's
and
one
I was
of those
like,
things.
It was one night I'm sitting on the couch. I'm like, I haven't reached out to Danny in a while. Crap, I need to. Is he okay? Is he working? I was like, geez, I need. Hey, buddy.
Which, like,
remember me?
So, like, there's been a lot going around the internet lately about people with ADD and ADHD and friendships. I don't know if you've seen this about the relationship fatigue.
No.
So, like, neurotypical people get relationship fatigue. which is a thing that happens when you aren't constantly exercising the relationship muscle. And so when you're not regularly staying in touch with a more neurotypical person, that relationship lessens in their mind, in their headspace, and the amount of emotive response that happens when they think about you or when they talk to you changes. Whereas people with ADD and ADHD tend to not have relationship fatigue. And so it's this thing, and you've noticed it. I know you have. It's this thing you have where you can just pick up right where you left off.
Oh yeah, I got best friends that we went for long periods of time and never spoke before the internet. I don't know. There's the time where people didn't have the internet. People, we would go long.
It was a long time ago. He's very old.
Back when there was black and white TV. No, not that far. And when we saw each other, we picked right back up on conversations like nothing had happened. Like a dog who has short-term memory. It's like, you're here. I just missed you. You were just gone. And you're back now. Hello, good to see you. Let's play. You know, it's that you do pick right back up. But I can see where like
other people may not look at it
a lot of people need a rhythm. I don't know. I don't necessarily. I like hanging out with people, but it's also like in my head, I got a drummer over here. He's playing some music.
And then next thing you know,
I got something over here building something.
2.5 months since you've talked to the person.
I bump into random people over here and I'm like, hey, that's good to see you. And we just right back off. But it's also it is also the stupid brain that's like someone will introduce themselves. Hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what did he say his name was?
No clue. Yeah.
I just lost what you just said. So when you started
telling, this chair is supremely uncomfortable.
Oh, you can switch chairs.
No, you're fine.
Sorry.
I also I've got nerve damage, so sitting anywhere for more than about a minute
How long have we been
is
doing?
weird for me.
I lost track. Oh shit, it's over an hour.
I didn't even realize that.
We can wrap this up.
We probably should wrap this up. I don't think anybody's still listening at this point.
Oh, I guarantee you at least half of them are watching still.
Hi. Thanks for watching.
Check out the Sonderlings podcast.
Yeah.
Everywhere where you find podcasts or on YouTube, specifically YouTube, because the YouTube is beautiful.
Don't look for it on everywhere that you find podcasts yet, because we're still waiting for Apple to certify it.
It'll be there.
It's on Spotify. It'll be there hopefully in the next week or two.
You just got to pressure him to be consistent and keep putting them out.
Oh, I have to be consistent and keep putting them out.
He's got a team now.
This is a job. I've got a team depending on me.
Plus, it's a game which you like.
Well, that's the thing is
you're passionate about
it's something that I'm super passionate about. The editing load is a lot easier.
He said load. Sorry.
You're fired.
This is marketing. You like it? Is it good?
It's great. But yeah,
Troika.
Everything is way easier. But yeah, truckbutter.
Hashtag truckbutter.
So check out, if you are interested in tabletop RPGs, if you've never played them before and you want to know more, you can check out the podcast. The easiest way right now is on the Sonderlings podcast YouTube, or if you go to Spotify and look for Sonderlings podcast. Also, just follow us on Instagram, Sonderlings podcast. You can follow me. I'm at Stuff I Kind of Care About on Instagram. I don't post much. I post things every once in a while, but I get real distracted with life and forget to take pictures. There's a lot of pictures of my cats on there too. You
always have an open invite to come on here and we can just BS like this.
Well, that's part of the reason why I hit you up is we released our first episode today, and I massively appreciate you letting me come on here and talk about it. But I also just genuinely enjoy sitting here and just BSing with you and just, riffing for an hour.
We haven't even turned on the lightsabers yet.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you to everybody who's been listening and watching. We do appreciate you.
Yeah.
Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. If you enjoyed this, we're going to do more of these. I mean, it just keeps rolling. I'm not going to quit. See, some people are podcasters and
I feel like that was a dig at me.
I didn't say that. I said that. So
I'm out
anyway.
of here. Just kidding.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. And I always end this by saying cue the cow. Do you want to do it?
You can say it.
Okay.
I usually say later, nerds.
Okay, you can say later, nerds, and I'll see.
No, that's for my podcast.
Oh, later, nerds. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Cue the cow.
So I want you guys to give me more likes.